Welcome to Creating Accessible Word Documents. Today, the facilitator is Casey Carroll, an instructional designer at the Center for Teaching Excellence. Because this is a micro workshop, I'm going to go ahead and let Casey share his screen and begin the workshop, if you don't mind.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Like Mitchell said, my name is Casey Carroll. I am an instructional designer with the Center for Teaching Excellence. And today we're going to be doing a little bit of a very quick kind of crash course into using some of the accessibility features in Word. And then mostly having some time for questions, playing around a little bit on your own, and being able to kind of get some in the moment feedback. To the get us started, if Mitchell, if you could throw some of those resources that we talked about into the chat. So there's three big resources. So basically, nothing that I'm going to tell you today isn't available on the website, right? So like the big three things that we want to be aware of when you have to go off and do this on your own would be the course accessibility checklist that is on the CTE digital accessibility page. It's located down at the bottom. So it's a teaching focused resource that really walks you through a lot of the key elements for a number of different tools. Actually, the other workshops in this series are going to be based off of that as well. And then there's two other links to what the digital accessibility group has created for cheat sheets. One is for Windows and one is for Mac. So it actually walks you through the step-by-step for each of those. I'm on a Mac today, so I will be using those Mac instructions and I won't be able to demonstrate exactly on a Windows machine, but it's pretty close in, the steps are pretty close, and that cheat sheet also can walk you through some of those steps as well. And then if we have questions on those as we go along, I'd be happy to try and troubleshoot those with you as we go. So all of those are great references for you for later. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And I'm perfectly happy with, I will have the chat up. Mitchell will also be in the chat helping us out. Let's see, get myself a little organized. And so if you have questions as we go along on specific things, feel free to let me know in the chat or raise your hand or open up your mic and we can go from there. So we'll get started with a brief demonstration and then we'll have lots of time to just chat about questions. All right, so as you can see here, I have a Word document open. So the first thing that I want to demo is the accessibility checker in Word. So all Word Microsoft products have accessibility checkers. They are a great tool. They are not the only tool or the only way for you to get information. And they're not always going to tell you everything that you need to know, right? And so if you go up here to tools and then to check accessibility, you can also get here the same way. I believe it is review on the Mac at least, and then check accessibility. So click check accessibility. And over here on the right-hand side, we can see that it kind of highlights some of the big things that we're concerned about, right? So in this document, it actually says that everything is good except for the alt text. So I can tell you right now that I made this document and it is not all good. So accessibility checkers can only catch problems that it can see. It cannot ensure accessibility. So as you'll see shortly, there's several more issues that it hasn't caught. So for example, it can't tell you that there are issues with the headers in the documents if there are no headers whatsoever, right? And honestly, like it should be saying, I think it's not saying that there are no headings in the document because there is a heading. It's just not an overall heading structure, which we'll look at here in just a second. So while we're here, let's go ahead and see how we can actually use the accessibility checker when it does highlight things in order to fix things. So we've got missing alt text is one of the things. So I click on the issue because there's only one. It highlights it within the document and also gives me this opportunity here, right? So we can see that it highlights the image and also gives us the opportunity to directly update. So you can generate a description. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. But so you know, like these automatically generated descriptions have a tendency to not be sufficient when it comes to alt text. So what we're looking for here is an opportunity to, if you cannot see the image at all, what information are you looking for? So is it accurate that the image is a diagram of a reflective cycle? Yes, that is true. And I have rainbow wheel of death myself, so we will see what happens here. But would you say that a diagram of a reflective cycle is the important information about this image? I would say no, right? So we're actually looking for the steps. So I would write in here, if I had access to Word in this live webinar, um, let me see if I can, yeah, we're just, so what I would do is I would uh, put Gibbs reflective cycle, probably something like step one, description, step two, feelings, that kind of a thing, kind of list it out. Or image is a diagram of Gibbs reflective cycle. See text for the actual steps, right? And then you could put in the actual document here. So the main issue here is whether or not this image is being used fully to give content, right? So you could put the steps to the reflective cycle over here. All right. So that's all I can vamp. So I'm going to see, but you can use the accessibility checker to create to access directly in there and update particular issues. So the rest of this I want to demonstrate by just working in the document. Also, maybe by not going back to the accessibility checker, it won't break again. So we just did alt text for the image, but I want to show you how to do it over here. So if you actually go to the image itself and right click, you can go down here to view alt text. If the image is decorative, and so don't run around marking all your images as decorative if they're not, but if it's truly there just for funsies and not as any sort of content, you can click mark as decorative. So if you just have a little heart there to make it more interesting, clicking mark as decorative means that things like a screen reader will actually ignore it. And so students won't have to try to figure out whether or not it's something that they need to be understanding. So we can put in our little alt text here. I'm not going to fully do that right now, but we're going to go ahead and just leave that there. Obviously, you would want to make that good, but we got a little sidelined. All right. So the next step, I want to give a quick little overview of headings. So headings help us structure a document. So this can help with general organization, right? So if you're doing a larger document, you might use headings in any context in order to create a table of contents, to be able to bounce around. And students that are using a screen reader use them in the same way. So a screen reader can actually use that organization through the heading structure in order to kind of move from section to section so that your student doesn't have to hear a screen reader read to them 17 pages of your syllabus before it makes it all the way to the schedule, right? So you want to use headings, and you also want to check the levels to make sure that they make logical sense. So the checker said that we didn't have any heading problems, but it cannot tell where we may need them or if they aren't there at all. So I know that I want this top thing to be a header. So let's start with the main title. So make sure only one thing in the document uses the title or header one style. So I'm going to highlight and then click on heading one. So this is the home thing. So you can do kind of heading one right here. And there you go. And then right below it, we've got this subheader with heading two. So I'm actually going to do this one. You can do a right click and then, oh yeah, I think I was trying to do that the other day. So I'll just do over here, little headings at the top. So we've got that as well. So to check if all the headings in the document are correct, you can go up to the View tab and then Outline. And so this gives you a little bit of an idea of what you've got here. So you can see that there's some blank space, but you can check where all, so you can show levels, all levels. I just want to see everything that's a level one, everything is a level two. We've got everything that's a level three. And so I've got something over here that's a level four. So I've actually skipped level three. And so I can actually click on this assignment instruction section. It's a little too indented because we kind of skipped a level. And so we want to be able to keep it as logical as possible. So I can actually change this. So that's the showing. So I can actually change this from level four to level three, and it'll update it right there for us. So I can go back to all levels. And then this actually seems to have done all of this in level three. So I'm going to change this back to body text. There we go. All right, close out. So you can also see the headers at a glance if you go to the View tab and then click on navigation pane. So it's a little checkbox right here. And then if you click on this little outline, it also highlights, these are headers essentially. So this also allows you to navigate around. And this is helpful for everybody, right? All right, so we got headers. All right, before I go to next little section, any questions so far? So far we've looked at accessibility checker, a little bit of alt text, and headings.
Casey, I have a quick question.
Hi, Michelle.
Hello. So I'm looking at a document as you're going through this, and I have a document that has them going through instructions stepwise, like to do a Google Earth activity. Would each of those individual steps that also have sub-steps, would those individual steps be a header, or is there something else yet that you haven't talked about yet?
Um, I don't think there's a right answer to your question,
Okay.
but one of the other things that we'll see here in just a second would be using those like, structured lists, right? So you would have to make a logical decision, like, so for example, if it's like step one, and then there's just like paragraphs and images and just like lots of things that they need for step one, then maybe that is a header and we separate it out. But if it's just like follow these steps, it might just be a bulleted list.
Okay, cool.
But that's not our right answer, right? So it's just kind of thinking, what do I want them to do and how can I convey this? And part of this is through the accessibility issues, but part of this is also just kind of logical organization as well.
Great, thank you.
But great question, thanks. All right, so let's do some links. So one of the things we want to make sure that we do everywhere that we hyperlink something in Word and other products, other things, including Blackboard, is to make sure that we have meaningful links. So this helps a screen reader use the links in a course. So screen readers can actually just pull up a list of links, but out of context. So for example, I don't have a screen reader loaded in, so we can't see, but I can tell you that this hyperlink just says the word here. So if you have a screen reader that pulls up all the links in a document like a syllabus, and there's just 15 things that say here, that's not enough information to know what the link is going to do when you click on it, or to be able to meaningfully, so otherwise you kind of have to guess, right? So our little here thing isn't particularly helpful. So to change the link, I'm going to right click on the link and then go to hyperlink and then edit hyperlink. So my link is fine, but it's actually the text to display is the little bit of an issue here. So I'm actually going to call this Gibbs reflective cycle, or even like, I wouldn't see any issue with like this whole line really, learn more about Gibbs reflective cycle, right? Could be that little helpful thing. So I would just be able to get rid of this other text and then just learn more about Gibbs reflective cycle. You know exactly what you're going to get when you click on that. All right, as Michelle was just alluding to, so we've got a couple, just about 2 more things to do on our kind of run through. So we got our lists. So you want to make sure that not to make lists or organization just by typing numbers or using tabs. So for example, if you have a tendency, so Word will kind of automatically do some of this, but if you're like, okay, I'm just gonna tab, and then I have a list, that's actually not gonna be, it's not gonna register as a list and it'll be a little harder to read through. And visually it's a little trickier too, right? So I'm going to highlight the text, and then from the home button up here, I'm going to click my bulleted list. So that's all you need to do. You can do the same thing with numbers, right? I think that in this I had 2 like versions of it, right? So then I want to also indent those, right? So if you still have the organization, and then this will be able to be read a little easier by a screen reader. And honestly, for all students, it's going to be easier to organize and understand. And then I think, yeah, see, just because I made this myself and I couldn't remember what level things are at, right? So I'm just going through and be like, okay, I need to pay attention. And then I can indent it there as well. And there you go. All right. Last quick thing I want to look at would be using tables in Word. So it's not super fancy, but when you use tables in Word, make sure there is a designated header row, so that you can kind of reasonably tab through, since that's what a screen reader will do. Try to avoid merging or splitting cells when you can avoid it, since that's going to affect the reading order. So you can see like what it'll do would be like column A, column B, column C, and then I could tab through as it's highlighting each as I go. For the header row, click on the table and then go up to table design, and then just make sure that this header row is checked. And that will designate it as a header row. So that just means that designating something as a header row just means that the screen reader will recognize, like, I'm going to tell you what each of these are, each one of these columns are, and then you can choose to kind of move through it at however you deem necessary. So once you've worked through everything that you want to do, I do recommend checking the accessibility checker one more time. So we'll go up here to tools. I'll do it this way this time, check accessibility. And you can see that it says the missing alt text isn't not a problem anymore. But again, like, we know that I just put some garbage in that alt text. I didn't actually put meaningful stuff. So it just wants something in the box. So we still have to be aware of these other things and check it. So this isn't going to tell us everything, but it's still good to check just in case you miss something. All right, so I'm going to keep my screen shared for the moment in case we need other things. But that is my quick rundown. So what questions y'all have? Yeah, what questions do you have? Let's start there.
Hi, Casey. I'm also Casey from the Darla Moore School.
Hi, Casey.
I had a question about converting Word documents to PDFs. Is there anything you recommend doing specifically if you are creating a document to make it into a PDF for distribution via email or printing? Is there something certain we should look to do or any recommendations you have there?
So I'm not sure on everything that would need to be in the PDF, but I would recommend focusing on primarily the things that we talked about today. So I would say headers are a big one. So if you have headers in a Word document and you convert it to PDF, I believe that those transfer over. And so you'd be able to use those in a Word document. I'm not sure. Mitchell, do you have anything that you want to add to that one?
Yeah, so a couple of things additionally to keep in mind is you want to make sure that your headers are where they need to be, that the alt text is already created. Um, and whenever you go to like insert an image, try to make sure that it is in line with the text because sometimes that wrap can get tricky whenever it's converted to PDF. But if you have like, the lists are made through the list function and not tabbed over, and everything is in line with itself, then usually it will translate over to an accessible PDF. And then Bree, thank you for that addition. Um, yeah, Michelle, correct. And then,
And
yeah,
I can
you're
go
good.
ahead and answer for Fernanda
You
as
got
well.
it.
So thanks, Mitchell. So Fernanda said, asked if it's better to use Word or PDF when putting files on Blackboard course content. The current guidance is for all of those kind of reasons that we mentioned. Uh, Word is currently better for accessibility than PDFs. So if you've been around here as long as I have, when I first started doing some of this stuff, I think PDFs were better for accessibility than Word, but it's actually flipped around again. So Word is actually easier for screen shares. It doesn't mean you can't do PDFs, of course, but I think if you have the choice or if you have an original Word document, it would be recommended to put the Word document, or if you want to, if you really want students to have a PDF of a particular thing, like your syllabus, you could post both. I've done that before. Another option is through Blackboard Ally, you can get alternative formats. So I think somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. I think if you put a Word document, you can actually convert it to students can convert it to PDF on their own. But I'm not entirely sure off the top of my head. Awesome, thanks. Mike, did you have a question? Did I see your hand?
Sorry, no, Bree did. I was gonna say the same thing Bree did. So we're good.
Okay, perfect, thanks. In the case you missed it in the chat, our friend Bree mentioned that if you are moving from a Word document to PDF, don't choose the print to PDF option. Do a save as PDF, which will do kind of a true conversion of it. And that will kind of keep those accessible pieces as well. Great. Thanks, y'all. What else? What other questions do we have? Hi, Mitchell.
Yeah, I was just going to say you're correct, Casey, that if you upload it as a Word document, the students can then download that Word document as a tagged PDF themselves.
Perfect. Thank you for checking that.
Casey, I had a quick question on oftentimes I made things PDFs to preserve formatting and to make sure that other, people and accessibility actually just getting it to somebody in an email, it was a reduced file size and everything. I know you can do restrictive editing on a Word document so somebody can't mess with it, but does that maintain the accessibility? Do you know?
I do not know.
Okay.
Someone else may know. What I would say is, and someone can correct me if I'm not saying the correct thing, but I cannot stress out about how other people are going to use my documents. So if you make your documents as accessible as possible, and a student takes the Word document and changes it and makes it not accessible anymore, and then they can't access the accessibility functions in it, I that then come that's not my problem. Right?
Agreed.
So as long as you have provided an accessible version of it, I don't know that you need to do full control over
Yeah.
it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, totally. It's partially what I was asking. Really, I think more what I was asking is maintaining the format of something. So that when it opens, it maintains the right format, because Word, depending on which version you have, if I send it to somebody, doesn't always open up and look the same when they
Yeah,
receive it. So PDF, whereas a PDF would stay the same. So that's fine.
yeah, I would just kind of make that call in the moment,
Gotcha.
probably
Okay.
depending on like, especially like the rule is that all things need to be constantly accessible, right?
Right.
I think if you're communicating with directly with an individual, you could probably make an informed decision about that. I would say keeping this a little more with just kind of
Cool.
broad advice, if that
Yeah,
makes
no,
sense.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Great question. Rachel mentioned in the chat wanting to use the PDF accessibility checker after conversion. Yep, that's a great idea. We actually have a webinar coming up directly on PDFs themselves, and that will be in a couple weeks. I think Mitchell's gonna throw the workshop schedule into the chat as well. Yeah, great advice. Thanks. Thanks for everybody's collaborative help as well. What else? What other questions? We've got a couple more minutes left in our brief little time.
And
Mitchell,
just
can
to
you
follow,
throw?
oh, I was going to say to follow up with what Casey said, we're in the process of scheduling the PDF workshop right now. It's going to be
Gotcha.
facilitated by Dow Hammond, who is at the Digital Accessibility Office. But yeah, I will go ahead and put that in the chat for you.
All right, great. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, Mitchell, are we sharing this recording with the attendees?
Yeah, so these webinars are being recorded. We're wanting to revise it over December because these workshops are going to be offered again in the spring, but anticipate a recording to be posted. There will be a recording posted at some point in time, and you'll be alerted about it.
And all of these instructions are also in the those resources that we posted earlier as well. So yeah, I think we're at time, and everybody's saying thank you, which means that everybody's leaving. So thank you all so much for being here. Please let us know if you need anything. You can contact us at the Center for Teaching Excellence, and we can go from there. We're happy to do individual questions as well. Thanks, everybody. Let's see, I'm gonna stop my sharing. And if you're still here and you have questions, I've got a couple of minutes if you want to ask them. Go ahead and stop the recording.